Everyone, welcome to ZuluNet. We've got another ZedTalk, I think.
Yeah.
We've got me, Patrick, Kyle, and we are going to talk about this whole ninth edition thing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some interesting things going on for sure.
Yeah. So, what do you want to start with the 9 new things video first for this? I think that'd be a good
Yeah,
place to
sure.
start.
Yeah.
So they had some guy speaking. I don't actually know who that guy is. Do you know who he is? Just sounded
Nope.
like some guy
Nope.
paid to speak, which is fine. But so the things that I picked up, first thing was they're saying it's polished to perfection. They're always going to say that. Nothing new there.
Yeah.
Second thing was the Crusade System. So that's going to be their casual game system. They're saying it's going to link your games together, and you're going to earn like they said earn battle honors, XP, and new rules for your army.
Oh,
So
okay.
like your army's leveling up as you play the games, right?
Yeah, so it's right. Trying being like I guess like the Necromunda campaign sort of,
Yeah,
where you can maybe do like a league, and then kind of
right.
build your dudes up or whatnot. Okay,
Yeah,
that
which
would be
they've
that
always
would be really
been
cool.
they've always been trying to do something like that.
Yeah,
Um, Nothing to
I
me
feel
has
like
ever stuck out though to be where I've like really want to get in on it. So I'm
yeah.
curious to see how that goes.
Well, I think that it's probably really challenging to do that specifically with a game like 40k, just because of how complicated 40k is as it is.
Right.
But you'd have to be pretty dedicated to making that system. I don't want to say like standalone, but it would have to be like it'd be a pretty thick book, I would imagine, to do it right, just because of um, like all the variation in 40k, all the different codexes and whatnot. But then again, it's like the amount of time you put into 40k, just normal 40k without any extra cool things, is significant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. So curious to see how that is. Maybe we can leech off of that a little bit for system I was working on a little bit.
uh,
Um, anyway, so third point, more starting CPs.
yeah,
So I'm hoping with that they're going to tame down how easily some armies can get it in the first place. Then
yeah,
I
yeah.
saw
It definitely not balanced in that sense.
yeah, because if which can be okay, but I think that's just too much to juggle for their rule system.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm really hoping to see maybe just more equality across detachments for how you get CP. So
right.
battalions maybe award less, and then the others stay the same because it's just one CP for all the other ones.
Well, and I wonder if they're going to go towards, because I right now pretty much, detachments are or how much CP you start with is completely tied into your organizational force, your task work or whatnot. Um, I wonder if they're going to go like move away from that at all.
Hmm.
Like instead of it being on based off of how much stuff you brought, it'd be more tied into like your specific faction.
Right.
At least have a little tailored there. I mean, I think it makes sense, and like the idea of it being tied to a battalion with 3 troops and 2 HQs and whatever. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think that it should be done away with completely, but it's definitely not the same for all armies
Right. Yeah.
by any
Because
means.
horde army is
Um,
going to acquire a battalion so much easier than say like
yeah,
Space Marines.
multiple battalions. I mean, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure there's some armies where within a 2,000 point list, it's probably literally impossible to get a brigade. You know,
Right.
um, and yeah, but something I did see on some YouTube video. I can't remember the channel, or else I'd give it the shout out. But it was talking about like having generate like CP generating mechanics within the game, so that you earn the CPs through your actual gameplay rather than
Right.
just being like given them. It sounds like that's not going to happen, but I
Right.
think that would be really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a pretty interesting point. And then the fourth one, tanks can shoot in combat.
Yeah.
Now, they
Yeah.
specifically said, or actually, I didn't capture the quote specifically, but they made it sound like. So they said something about shooting at point
It,
blank.
yeah, point blank range. Yep.
So to me, that's not flat out saying you can shoot at anything.
Right.
All we know for sure, I'd say, is that you can shoot at what has charged you, or what you
Right.
have charged, I suppose.
Right.
Um, so not a lot of information there. Very
So
interesting.
yeah, let's unpack that just a little bit because I think that's a pretty potentially a big deal.
Oh
So
yeah, definitely.
there there was the all right. So let's say that it's the you could still shoot like normal even if you're tied up in close combat. I don't think that that's what it is based off of their verbiage.
Right,
But
but it's
if that
possible.
was the it is possible. If that is the case, I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't like that at all because there's there definitely is a pretty hardcore trend over 8th edition towards I don't know, maybe like shooting, let's say gameplay favoring shooting armies,
Yeah.
if you will, versus and maybe it's not I think it's more technically challenging as in it's harder to actually get an assault heavy army to win because it's just easier to sit back and shoot.
Yeah.
And there are things now like the whole like primaris their base range going to what 36 inches right instead of the 24 or no was it 36 inches? Gosh,
I think it's 30.
it's bad. Yeah, 30. That sounds yep. Bad look, Patrick. But there's certain things like that, right? But yeah, I don't know if it was that where you could just it didn't matter if you tied them up with like your unit of a bunch of Gretchen or something that you all you have in there is just to get into the gun line and just tie it up. Um, yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Yeah.
the other way,
Yeah, I'm seeing tanks are either going to go up in cost from this, or
mhm,
something else is going to have to balance because, like, that's how you took a tank out of action without killing it. Like,
yeah,
give yourself some breathing space as you charged it, and it probably
right,
wasn't going to do anything to you.
right. Well, and that was I think one of the things that's definitely has been keeping Assault in the game
Yeah.
was the ability to do that, to
Yeah, I
tie
agree.
things up. And I mean, because they even built, they made it easier to prevent yourself from getting tied up into close combat
Yeah.
by, the fallback rule. And so that made it even more challenging to make sure you get, your whole thing, your whole strategy off. Which I don't think is a bad thing. I think that's cool, because it just forces you to be a better player, right?
Right.
Um, but yeah, no, if you even, I think it makes sense for them to be able to shoot in the combat that they're in.
Right.
I think because as it stands, tanks are, by and large, just terrible at close combat, right? So
Yeah, they're
you,
pretty abysmal.
yeah, it's pretty cheesy to be able to tie them up with some giant, horde unit that is going to be there for a few turns,
Yeah.
and you could probably pretty decently wrap it with a large horde army, right?
Yeah.
So they can't fall back. So I mean, I could see that being really, really frustrating, and forcing some sort of change. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like, how much harder is that going to make the assault phase, which is already hard to master?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Next
Yeah.
point brought up was a terrain rework, and no details at all were given about this.
Say that again.
Terrain
Oh,
rework.
terrain. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they didn't give any like hard information about it. It's just like, do you like to hide your guys in terrain? Then this is for you. Like, okay,
Yes,
gonna say
you
anything
can do
about
it.
how this is reworked, and they didn't.
Yeah.
So maybe that could help assault armies out. We'll see what they do with that.
Yeah, I feel like the the thing that is closest to the, I guess maybe the rules or whatever that is like the best candidate for change as far as terrain is the if you can see any of the unit, then you can shoot the whole thing.
Right.
I feel like maybe it has something to do with that, because if you can hide your unit behind terrain, or if you can hide some of your unit behind terrain, then you could sneak up on your opponent.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely need more info on that before we can speculate anything, really.
Yeah.
And then
I will say real quick though, I am
Yeah.
a fan of terrain becoming more important. You know,
Yeah.
in my mind, when I remember I was playing this paintball game like when I was a kid, you know, and there was this one dude. It was, I mean, we're all like junior high kids out there playing paintball because that's what you do. This dude was a midlife crisis old guy, right? Like
Yeah.
in his 40s. And he had like full kit, you know, he had this whole, like he had armor. It was all black too, so he just didn't make sense because it's like you can't blend it. Newsflash to people that are trying to be sneaky, like black doesn't work and rarely works at night because you're darker than the night. Like it just camo or greens or something like that is much better. But anyways, all black. He had this like legit awesome paintball gun, the whole setup.
Yeah.
What he did every single game was he would get to a piece of, you know, some cover, and then just like find a target, and then just leave cover, shooting at the guy, and he's like in the middle of the battlefield, the middle of the game, and everyone would then turn and shoot at him. He wasn't a small fellow either,
Right.
you know. But it's like, so that was reality, right? But I think what was influencing his choice, his tactical choice there, was the like Call of Duty, where you can totally do that and get away with it. Just leave cover and just be faster than the dude or whatever,
Right.
and be successful in that game. So anytime I hear terrain getting better, it makes me excited, because to me that's, you don't run your infantry squad out in the middle of nowhere with no cover, because they're going to get shredded by the machine gun, right? You don't do that. You utilize cover, you know. That's what you do. And even if you don't have cover, you don't just freaking get up and run. You know, use your individual movement techniques. You get up and get down, get up and get down, and all that jazz.
Yeah.
With supporting fire and all that. So anyways, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful of that, because I like better terrain rules, because to me that's makes the game a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
And tactical.
Which you're all about, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So then we have 40k at every size level has been scaled. So not that big a deal to me, because I generally play just 2,000 points every time. I don't usually go smaller. Don't play a lot of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what they mean by that, what that looks like.
Yeah, is that like points or?
Yeah, I'm
like
curious to see if that ties into the starting CPs thing. Just in how you scale your force.
Yeah, you're like starting at a certain level or whatever.
Yeah.
So I actually I wonder if it has anything to do with that. I was thinking the other day, you know, in the shower probably. That's when I would do my thinking like most people.
Yeah.
I was wondering, like, so 40k, if you're just starting out, like you need a lot of juice in your nerd tank to like get through the beginning pains, you know, the birth pains of a 40k hobby. Like there's some considerable things to overcome. And I wonder, I was thinking about like making a system, like a list of like tiers, right? So if you only have like your basic units, like you don't have super heavy walkers, you don't have a lot of vehicles, you have what a lot of people start off with. They buy the starter box and they have a ton of infantry with no way to get them around the battlefield, and it's like your basic Joe dudes. the one guy that has like the 5-man Devastator squad, doesn't matter what they have, wins because you don't have that, right?
Yeah.
Like that's where a lot of people start off. And having like a tier system where, all right, we're playing at like tier 1, which means that like these are the units within tier 1 or something. And so like if we agreed to a tier 1 player, let's say I was the new guy and then you were the experienced dude, and like, hey, look, man, I only have like tier 1 level stuff. And you'd be like, oh, okay, that's no problem. I'll bring a tier 1 level list.
Yeah.
As in these units, I'll only bring these units. These units aren't there.
Right.
Yeah. So
you
so
mean
I don't
it would be
show up.
like my very first 500-point game back in I only started on 6th edition, but I had my dreadnought, I had my tactical squad, my scout squad, and my captain, and I fought 2 riptides.
uh, back when you felt so good that you had a dreadnought, you're like, yes, this is gonna be great. You're gonna walk around and just like own things, and no, he just gets owned right away.
By 2 riptides.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough.
Those welcome to 40k.
You're right. Freaking nerd. Go back to your closet and learn.
If you're watching, Chris, I know you watched a video of ours at some point, but I still remember that game. No, not our Chris.
Oh,
it's a different Chris.
Oh. Okay.
You know who you are, Chris, and I don't have any grudges against you or anything for that. It's a memory I think very fondly of, actually. So.
Dude, 40k could be a dog eat dog world, man. Like pretty fast.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think like a lot of people kind of dread like the competitive scene, but I think it's like inverse. Like you have a better chance at having a really bad experience. I'm not saying that was a bad experience, but I've had some bad experiences where it's just like the dude was just not a cool person.
Right. Yeah.
And just like lived off of winning, just clubbing baby seals to death, and that was his like weekend. I'm a important person sort of thing, and I think you have a much better chance at coming across a situation like that, just trying to get like a normal game off, meeting random people like, oh, you play 40k? I do. I'm trying to get. You want to play a game? Yeah, sure. Let's play a game. And better chance of that than like going to a tournament and meeting a jerk because you have like showmanship scores and all that stuff. Like you're probably not gonna. You're gonna come words.
Start over.
Wow. You're gonna come across dudes that are gonna be much more understanding, much more helpful.
Yeah.
All of that because, not only that, but if they're playing at that tournament level, they have a certain level of confidence and they don't need tactics. They don't need to cheat,
Right. Yeah. All right. So that was scaling. Next up, we have strategic reserve rework.
Strategic.
Again, all they really said was, do you think you're more clever than your opponent? Like, well, that doesn't tell me anything about what you're doing.
Yeah.
But whatever. So no idea what that's going to look like. Because most things have some way of getting into strategic reserve anyway. So I don't really know what to expect from that. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I don't know. I don't.
Well, I mean, what would be the options? Like,
exactly.
Would you just hold things back and then deploy them later, like on your table edge, or?
Yeah, you used to be able to do that. I wonder if they're bringing that back actually. Say you could just hold back whatever you wanted up to X amount, and then just walk onto the table if you wanted.
Right. So you could kind of like neuter the alpha strike if you don't.
Potentially, yeah.
If you don't have that. I don't.
So.
I don't know what else that could be.
Who knows?
It'd be cool if it was something like completely new and it worked well. Something like no one was expecting.
They also mentioned like being able to get on the battlefield at every angle. So some sort of outflanking system. Maybe the longer you hold your forces back, the further around the table they can get. That could be interesting.
That would be interesting, yeah. I mean, that at least like you turn 1, you can only come in at your table edge or your like table edge and like in the deployment zone, and
Yeah.
then like the next turn it's like 12 inches further on the side or something, and then 12 inches or something like that.
Yeah, it could be interesting. But who
Yeah,
knows? We don't even know if that's what it is. That's
you
just my thought.
if that was, then you definitely see tactics like you just take like a like a cultist squad and then keep them in for basically until the very last instant, so you could score
Right.
um, line breaker.
Yeah. Sure, yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
So then we have explosive weapons deal more damage to hordes. Okay.
So yeah, I mean,
Makes
so
sense.
they're definitely not going to bring back templates. I'm
No.
pretty confident. But I
What's a
wonder,
horde? You know? What do they think
I
a horde
wonder if,
is?
yeah, I wonder if that has to do with either maybe it's like a unit cohesion mechanic, but that would probably slog down the game a lot if you're like, oh, if they're 1 inch apart, oh, da-da-da-da. Or if it's like a hey, if you have a unit of 20 plus models, then you get like a modifier.
Right. Yeah. Again,
What?
not a lot of info there.
Yeah,
Just explosive weapons do more damage to hordes.
I could see it
What's
being that if you have like 10 plus or 20 plus,
yeah?
and you get it like a
Just a flat
maybe
modifier.
a yeah, what kind of modifier would it be? Would it be like a wound modifier, or like damage modifier? It'd have to be a damage,
Well,
or not a damage.
not damage, but
Um, maybe
like
a hit modifier.
yeah, number of hits.
Like you get an extra hit or something for
Right.
every.
Yeah, that could be possible. And then finally, aircraft. So they said they were talking about you ignore models, which they kind of already do.
Yeah, it said intervening models. What is that?
Yeah,
Like, what would that? What do they mean by that? What do they mean by
maybe
these words?
the only thing I can think of is they can target characters, which I think that would be terrible if they ignore the character rule.
Yeah, especially like Andrew's triple Crimson Eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
The only
you,
thing that's really intervening to them right now is that limitation of targeting. Nothing else really, unless they can land on other models, which I don't see that happening because of the physical limitations of the game.
yeah, maybe it would just be like a modified wobbly model thing where you just like oh he declare him as there,
Yeah,
declare the flyer as there, even though you can't actually place him there or something.
yeah,
But
yeah. And then they didn't say it directly, but they made it sound very much like if you fly off the table, you can come back.
yeah, so um, that's what I immediately thought of because in Team Yankee, if you have strike aircraft, and I think it's Flames of War games generally follow the same, but you have strike aircraft where they start off the table and you have to roll to bring them in,
40Ks
and
do the same thing, exact same thing.
yeah, yeah, and then like they'd come in for like that one turn and then they'd fly off. Like there wasn't an option, and then you can
Right.
bring them back in, sort of thing. Um, which makes a lot of sense for anything that's not a hover in like hover mode,
Right.
because that's like really really fast that it
Yeah.
should be moving. You know,
Yeah.
um,
I think that'd
but
be a cool implementation. So only aircraft that with hover can really stay on the battlefield. The other ones are just zipping by and returning.
well, yeah, and that would be that. I mean that is something that like I think newer players would struggle with,
Yeah.
flyers, right? They're sometimes are really really hard to kill, especially like Crimson Hunters, right? Um, and then the fact that they can move so far and stuff, you just do, especially a skilled player, they can do so much damage. And then if you don't have certain models that specialize or do pretty well against that, then you're not. If you're a newer player and you don't have all that stuff, you just that
Yeah.
sucks to suck, you know. But yeah, if they had to spend more time off the board, then I guess that would definitely cut down flyer spam. Or yeah,
Yeah,
you either
for
spend
sure.
time
Yeah,
off the board because you want to move fast and you get like hard to hit, you get airborne and all that, right?
yeah,
Or you choose hover, where you stay on the battlefield, but you lose hard to hit and
right.
certain things. It's easier to hit you. It's maybe you do like maybe you move even slower, you
Yeah,
know. Well, I guess yeah, 20 inches would be fine. But I think that would be cool having like that balance because you get like that
yeah,
risk versus reward, and I love that in games. I hate it when you could just do whatever you want, you know.
right. Yeah,
Which there are definitely some flyers out there where you could just do whatever you want.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So yeah, that was it for info. There's rumors flying around that this is going to be hitting in September, but
Hmm.
given the state of the world, and people have said this as well, it's probably a very fluid date at this point.
Yeah,
Um, they're not going to launch when nothing's open. So, or I think if even only half of things are open back up, they're still not going to launch.
well, it's not only that, but you got the supply chains that
Hmm.
we have no idea on our side, like what level they're at. You know, like there's certainly orders of priority to society that the new edition of 40k probably doesn't rank very high on.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's between like I think we've probably gotten over most of that slump, but you know it's like toilet paper or you know rule book for a game or meat,
Maybe it's the
food.
same. Maybe those are equated as the same thing, though. So,
No, that's a good point. It's a good point. You know, there's a lot of
uh,
those free little those free like how to put your model together instruction handbooks that are a resourceful person could find many uses for.
yeah. So moving on to new models.
Yes,
So I'm going to preface this with, I am not a Necron player. I don't play
me
against
neither.
Necrons very often.
Me neither.
So I may not be identifying these very accurately.
Me neither.
So first up, we got these new warriors, right?
Yep.
They look cool. No, I don't
Hmm.
think there's a lot of big changes going on, other than the the clear plastic green stuff is gone,
Yeah.
which I'd heard before has been like a point they've been trying to deal with. So yeah, they're looking good. Got their Gauss rifles, got their Tesla. I this is nothing to do with the model, but I like the paint style they've gone for, where it looks old,
Yeah.
not that new silver look.
Right. And that obviously makes thematically much more sense.
You got this one guy where his eyeballs falling out of his skull.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
Yeah.
And then we have the grand picture
Yes.
with so many things happening here.
Yeah.
So first up, we got the new destroyers, right? He looks
Hmm.
bigger. Definitely looks, or at least the gun. The gun looks way bigger than the
Yeah.
current models. Um, so I was talking to Patrick about this. The model that's really caught my eye, no one has really identified it yet. It's this weird little guy where he's got like these robotic talons. He's in between the destroyer and whatever character this is.
Yeah.
It looks like he's wearing a giant tin can.
Yeah.
It's just
It-
it's just so weird.
you ever see those giant like carnival toys that you could get at like Six Flags or something? But it was a giant like it looked like that, right? And it was like an air blaster, I think is what it was. You
Oh
pulled back,
yeah,
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 you
I know
pulled
what you're
back the
talking about.
slingshot, and then it like had like a blast of air or something. But it was
Oh
like
man,
ridiculously big. That's what that makes me think of. It's
yeah,
the air blasters.
yeah. So I don't know if that's gonna be a new unit or if it's a rework, but I love it. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous and doesn't look like anything else in the army.
Well, and that being said, it does look good. It's not
Yeah, yeah,
because we harken back to something that is a plastic toy like that. Well, it's still a plastic toy, but but it looks good. I like it. I like it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's probably one of the models I'm most excited about, and I don't know
Yeah,
why.
yeah,
Then we've got these things that remind me of War of the Worlds.
yeah. And I really like it a lot.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah.
Those look
It,
fantastic. It's got the
I mean,
Doomsday Arc cannon on it, and some. I believe those are Gauss. I guess it'd be a cannon.
yeah. Um. So, do Necrons have like a super heavy walker at all?
Oh yeah, they've got super heavies. They're
They do. Well, super heavies, but like a walker.
they're technically walkers, yeah.
Okay. The
They don't see a lot of play because they're not real top tier, but they're good, you know. But they're very
well,
expensive.
what is it? Okay, so with my very limited knowledge of Necrons, basically the only big thing that I can think of right now is that the giant floating pyramid,
The obelisk,
the obelisk. Yes.
yes, which are a bit sad right now.
No.
Yeah. Let me
So it's
see.
something different than that.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
they're different. They'd be equivalent to like a what am I thinking of? The Warhounds. The Warhound, like they start getting into like
Oh.
real Titans, not Night Titans. They
Oh,
start
really?
to like that equivalent. Yeah.
Wow. Why have I never seen this at all?
Although I guess Night Titan, because they're not that great, and they're Forge World expensive resin.
That's there. You go. That's why.
So yeah, so it's not worth getting at this point.
Yeah. No.
Because most people that are getting that kind of stuff are generally playing in the tournaments,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not, unless you're trying to like surprise people, they're not tournament worthy.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, so speaking of obelisks, we're looking at a different guy. So Satans,
Yes.
they're looking better. I don't know that I particularly like this model. I think he's a bit too flashy. There's just a little too much going on with him.
There's a lot. It's very busy at the bottom.
Yeah, the lightning. Uh, I don't know. I think
That being said,
GW
go
kind of
ahead.
struggles with lightning.
You know, it. I mean, I do really like it. That I'm not 100% the big pose sort of models like that where you have the model, but then you have all this other stuff going on
Yeah,
around the model. Um, I'm not the I think I'm not the biggest fan of that just because in my mind I'm just like, oh, that's more stuff to paint,
right.
and not only paint, but you got to do something fancy with it because it's some sort of like effect.
Yeah,
Um, but the model itself, I think, looks freaking fantastic.
yeah. Reminds me of Lord of the Rings. The the ring wraiths.
Oh
Because
yeah,
that
yeah,
is like his head. I don't know if he's supposed to be wearing a helmet or if his head's just all weird, but
yeah,
that
like
reminds
Halo
me.
sort of thing.
Yeah, that reminds me of them. And then we have this thing. That is. So there is an obelisk where you can get a transcendent Catan in it. I'm guessing that's what's going on here.
Okay,
Um, but it's clearly not an obelisk. It's got
right.
at least one character on it, plus like I don't know some bodyguards or something, or maybe it's supposed to be a transport. I don't know.
Are those shield-looking things? Do you think that's a part of it? Or
Yeah,
those just
yeah, those are
separate?
part of the model,
Huh. Oh, so maybe they're like. What if it's like some sort of like rotating? I
like
can't think
shield.
of a. Yeah, I can't think of a proper reference, but um, yeah, where like rotates around like really really fast, or something.
Right, or as needed to block projectiles.
Right.
Yeah, so that's another thing Necrons have struggled with is having not necessarily fragile vehicles, but not the same tier as like the Guard have, or they generally have only T7 vehicles,
Hmm.
And once you pop their shields, they're pretty easy to bring down because they don't have a great armor save.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if this is something to help with that as some sort of game mechanic or rule set specific to Necrons that'll help their vehicles out while still
Yeah.
keeping like the flavor of that lighter vehicle, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like it would be, unless it's, uh, unless there's some sort of like power beam or something from it. It looks like it'd be a more melee, a model you would want to get into melee.
Well, the Satans have like their powers that are typically ranged,
Oh, okay.
so it likely has that since he's got that guy stuck at the top there.
Man, this is great. As you teach me the things I don't know,
And
maybe some
then
people out there watching this video can learn.
yeah, so that obelisk, I think that looks a lot bigger than the current one.
Does it?
I think it does. Well, maybe not a lot bigger. It looks bigger to me. You can see it's got some dude been teleported out of it. That's pretty interesting. Again, no more green transparent plastic.
Right.
We've got this big character with the claw there. I don't know who that could be. I don't know.
I really
Necron
I really
characters.
like that model.
Yeah, he's cool.
I think that's my favorite between that and the War of the Worlds Walker.
Yeah.
Because that dude just looks like you do not want to mess with him.
There's also quite a bit going on in the background of this picture.
Yeah.
Both behind the obelisk and next to the obelisk in the background.
Yeah, the just to the right there.
Yeah, it's got like
Like
those
a
pillars
little
or
walker.
yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Hard to say what's going on there. And then Space Marines. So Primaris gets close combat, great, but it's just more Space Marines. There's nothing interesting to me going on with these models. It's just the same old,
Yeah.
which is okay, I guess. That makes money. They got their chain swords now. They got the more melee specialized, it looks like, with the storm shield and power sword, and I think they said that was
Yeah.
a Volkite pistol.
Okay. I do like that model.
Yeah, it's good looking. It looks like some sort of like Templar.
Yeah.
Um, they've got their little knight shield going on, like the Imperial Knights have. I've never been a fan of that little shield on the Imperial Knights. Looks okay on these guys.
Yeah. I like I do like it. But I think it's one of those things that it's hard to like it'd be hard to take that to certain other Space Marine armies. Like if you bought that kit but you had a different army and kind of fit that in, like to me that doesn't mix very well with like Space Wolves, for instance.
Right.
It'd be kind of a weird clash.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you're doing like Imperial Fist or Ultramarines, obviously,
Yeah.
Black Templars, all that stuff, it obviously fit right in.
I think they'd be great for Templars.
Oh yeah, that's a super Templar look.
And then the bikes.
Vroom vroom.
I love bikes. I don't know how I feel about these yet.
I kind of like it. I kind of like it.
It's not the direction I thought they'd go, but
Yeah.
I'm glad it still has wheels.
Yeah, yeah. They're violating the primaris doctrine at this point.
Yeah. So
I do like it. I think that. All right, I will say for the kind of body theme that they're going for there, it'd be really easy to make it look a lot worse than that.
sure, yeah,
I will say that because there's some like when you're scrolling around like on the 3D print like files out there or like some other really like the old school bikes kind of look a little bit like that but just like a lot worse.
yeah, a little
Something
bit.
like yeah. Anyways, it'd be a lot easier to make it look a lot worse than that. And
Yeah.
I personally I do like that.
Yeah. So that's it. Any other thoughts that you have?
As far as the The Space Marines.
Space Marines, anything we've talked about? Because I'm
Uh,
so talkative. I've got all these thoughts just burning
yeah,
inside me.
yeah, it's great. You're really lulling me to sleep there with your sultry tones.
Mm,
Um, yeah, no, the one thing, and we kind of discussed this a little bit, um, was they had mentioned the core rules being free,
mm,
which you have like even in this last rule book, you have like the basic rules, and then you have the advanced rules, and then a lot of the good stuff is in the advanced rules. So
yeah,
I imagine that for them willing to do something for free, it would be something that pretty watered down. But
yeah,
I'm okay. I'm excited. All right, so let me preface this, which I understand the Games Workshop is a company.
yeah,
It's a publicly traded company, which means that they answer to a board, right? They answer to their shareholders, and that ultimately, no one's investing in Games Workshop to not make money, right?
right,
So, and I don't begrudge them of making money for
right,
sure, but I do think that uh, there's a lot of potential for them doing things differently, where they would not only still make money, but potentially make a lot more money. And I think that how they handle the new editions with all the new books that come out is one of those ways that could see a lot of improvement. And in the sense of, again, like we talked about, like the hobby tax to just get into the game, and the money, not
yeah,
to mention, to just to get into the game and have anything approaching a decent army, not any competitive, just something that's not going to get crushed by literally anything else out there. That's pretty steep, right?
yeah,
And they've definitely been making pushes and have been obviously thinking about how to make 40k more approachable. I don't know if you saw, but there's some articles that I've seen for the past couple of years now about them trying to get like starter kits or whatever in big box stores like Target or
mm,
whatnot. Which I think it's cool. It's a great hobby. It's a great tabletop games, and 40k being, I think, the flagship game to that by a long stretch. It's cool. I'd love to see more people in it, and I think there's a lot of people that would love to play it if it wasn't so steep to get into it, right?
yeah,
Um, how they handle, like I said, those rules is one of those ways that I think they could not only, if they improved upon it, like for instance, all right, you got the core, you got the rules, right? So everything that you would need to play the game, minus like really cool special missions or whatever, right? But just like to show up, 2,000 points versus 2,000 points, and let's just play a game. I think that if they made those completely free, and maybe they're doing that, maybe, but completely free, um, and where you're really only paying for the codexes for your army, which to me makes a lot more sense because I'm more invested in my armies that I
sure,
have, right?
yeah,
And not to mention that, but like in the game, like it's just you want to get more things. There's probably extremely few people out there that only have one codex. you know,
yeah,
yeah. So even if you upped the price a little bit on the codexes just to make the rules more available for free online, right? And you could still buy the fancy book with all the fluff and all that, and probably a lot of people would because it's just easier to play. But long way to get around to my point being is it reminds me of the Darth Vader and Princess Leia, where like the tighter you grip, the more star systems you know you lose through your fingers. Paraphrase. Sorry.
yeah.
Star
Definitely,
Wars
definitely
fans.
paraphrased.
Yeah. But it's like the more you got to make money, but you have to find that balance. And I think that if you made just getting your hands on things 40k related just easier and less obviously really expensive, which I'm not saying they don't have costs they got to cover.
Right.
I don't begrudge them making money, but if you found a better way to do it, where it seemed less like you're just trying to make money and more like you're for the boys,
Right.
then you would have a lot more people buying your things, I think, which
Yeah.
means that you would be making more money. So I'm hopeful in their little mention that the core rules will be free. Maybe that's again, kind of along this theme of making the game more approachable. Um, but yeah, no, I think I've said enough.
You have.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah, so I think thing that I'm most interested in is starting CP and how that will balance out lists. Because like there's times where I don't want to take a battalion, but I need to if I
Yeah.
want CP.
Right.
So I'm excited about that. See where that goes.
Yeah, I think the main complaints that I've heard about Eighth Edition, it has something to do with stratagems or CPs and all of
Yeah,
that.
I like the
The
system. I just don't like necessarily how it's implemented right now.
yeah, same for me. I love what it brings to the game. I love that you're getting less lists that you the ability to just soup things together that would never go together in 40k to create this ultimate badass competitive list is
Mm.
less, and I do appreciate that and I like that. um yeah, plenty of different things you could do. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yep. So that's it then.
All right.
Thanks for
All
checking
right.
us out today. Check us out on the social media, Instagram, Twitter. We have a website.
Yeah, yes. All right. Well, here we go. We got a website. Yep. So zulu-net.com/connect. And editing Kyle, go ahead and put the link up there so people can see it with their
Mhm.
eyeballs. Yeah. So something new. You might have seen a link to it in one of our battle reports recently. We're going to
Mhm.
start putting our army lists up there. I think we're moving towards that. So some lists you can't fit in the descriptions with other things at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we're going to be doing articles there. We're getting into the article game, so it'll get better and better. But tutorial type stuff, um, just little like opinions on this, that, or the other. I think you just did an article, Kyle, about introducing a new game system to your community,
Yep.
which could be a struggle for many people wanting to play new stuff. So things like that. I've got a series going on about how to maximize your assault game, which might all get thrown out the window here soon with Ninth Edition, but we'll see how it goes. Hopefully the concepts still apply.
Yeah.
Yeah, check it out. And yeah, and then also too with our other main effort is just battle reports. And as you can see with this, if you follow the channel at all, we're getting more into showing our faces and talking about things. But yeah, we enjoyed playing the game, so we like to present that to you, the world. So
So there we are.
yes, ZuluNet. All right, well, thanks for joining us, and subscribe, like, comment, and you guys have a good day or evening or whatever it is.